Don't forget to pick up your copy of Football Game Plan's latest book release, The Go-Go Offense by Coach Brendan Marion, as Coach Marion takes you through the ins and outs of his offense, the most explosive offense in college football that's lighting up the scoreboards and tearing up the college football fields. You can pre-order your copy today by going to footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Welcome to Football Game Plan, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Mike McCarthy is your producer today. It's the summertime and preseason is just around the corner in the NFL, and we'll get you ready for the upcoming 2019 NFL season as we preview the San Francisco 49ers. Now, as we kick off the season preview, let us take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the season as we go into our 4-minute offense.
In San Francisco, quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is on his way back from a torn ACL. Arriving from New England as a backup in 2017, Jimmy G wasn't known for much other than being the backup to Tom Brady. This season, he'll be looking to emerge as the franchise quarterback and the quarterback the 49ers believe he can be. In order to do so, he'll need to stay healthy, as he looks to play the first full 16-game season of his career. In 2018, George Kittle staked his claim to be the best tight end in the NFL. His stat line makes a great argument. 88 catches for 1,377 yards and 5 touchdowns. He bested Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce in yards, but only had half the touchdowns that Kelce did. Head coach Kyle Shanahan knows that Kittle is the centerpiece of his offense, so look for Kittle to eclipse his 136 targets next season. What can the 49ers expect from Jalen Hurd? Coming into the 2019 draft process, Hurd was an interesting prospect. Though not a first-round level talent, he played at both Tennessee and Baylor at 2 positions, running back and wide receiver. Hurd showed more production as a runner than at a wideout, having 1,285 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground at Tennessee. At Baylor, he only caught 48 passes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in his 1 year of eligibility. His new head coach is known for his creativity, so his official position with the Niners will be something to watch out for. Robbie Gould has had a tumultuous time with the 49ers. He was a kicker for the Chicago Bears for 11 seasons before moving to the Giants, and is going into his 3rd season with the Niners. However, he recently requested a move back to Chicago to be closer to home. The current sentiment is that he's staying, but if he continues to protest, the place-kicking situation in San Fran will be interesting to follow.
It's time to put this team under the microscope and go position by position to see where they stand as we head into the 2019 season, and we'll start on the offensive side of the ball at the quarterback position. What the 49ers do have at the quarterback position is solid depth with Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullins, and C.J. Beathard. What they want is to have a bona fide franchise quarterback, and they're banking on that guy being their $137.5 million man in Jimmy Garoppolo. As of right now, the only thing that he has proven is that he struggles staying healthy. Now, the Niners need for him to stay healthy so that way they can make a fair assessment on what they actually have as a player. Before last season's injury, Garoppolo was playing decent, not spectacular football, and coming off of a knee injury, we'll see how much of his game, which is predicated on movement, is affected by the injury. If this becomes an ongoing issue, the 49ers will have some tough decisions to make come 2020. The 49ers clearly have a type at running back, and I like it. They love explosive slashers that don't need volume to be effective. Jerick McKinnon, Matt Breida, Jeff Wilson, and free agent signee Tevin Coleman are all very similar backs with similar ability to score from anywhere on the field. The issue here is keeping them all healthy, as Breida, McKinnon, and Wilson all missed time last year, with Coleman having had his injury concerns and missed games before with a couple of injuries himself. So while the talent is definitely here for them to be creative and also thrive, they first have to stay healthy. They do have a great fullback in Kyle Juszczyk, who's another versatile threat within their offense and has been one of their more consistent performers on this side of the ball. Potential is the word I like to use to describe the receiving core of San Francisco. There's a lot of it here, and with stability at the quarterback position, they should start to realize it. Second-year player Dante Pettis figures to step into a more prominent role this season. He's a good route runner and should take a major step forward in a full-time role. In the second round, they drafted Deebo Samuel out of South Carolina. He reminds me a lot of Jarvis Landry and how he wins and what he can do after the catch. I think he can play inside or out. And I think outside of those two guys is where it gets a bit cloudy, as there are a host of players that can fill roles 3 through 7 on his roster. The club really likes both second and third year players Richie James and Trent Taylor. Kendrick Bourne was the second lead receiver on this team last year and would figure to be in a battle with Jordan Matthews for outside duties. A healthy Marquise Goodwin has to figure into the mix somewhere, as he's one of their more explosive, or the most explosive weapon they have on offense. And third round pick Jalen Hurd has the versatility and upside that makes his usage enticing. So how they shake out the depth chart will be what to watch for this summer. At tight end, things are a bit more clear, as George Kittle is their go-to guy and has made himself into a big play threat as well. Last season, he finished with 88 receptions, nearly 1,400 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Both Garrett Selleck and Ross Dwelly, who I really like, provide depth. And in free agency, they brought in former Falcon Levine Tololo and drafted Caden Smith out of Stanford to help with the blocking up front. The offensive line for the 49ers is in really good shape. All 5 starters return, and it's that continuity that gives you a lot of optimism for the 2019 season. Outside of nursing some guys back to health from injury, building depth throughout this camp will be what the big focus is. San Francisco brought in Willie Beavers, Wesley Johnson, Ben Garland via free agency to help bolster that second unit. And if former first-round pick Josh Garnett can stay healthy, we'll get to see what he can bring to the unit as well. And reserve Sean Coleman provides good swing depth at tackle. Now here is how I graded out the offensive unit for San Francisco. I'm excited to see this 49ers defensive line this year. Adding both Nick Bosa and Dee Ford really helps bolster the pass rushing potential along the front 4. Plus, with the return of the versatile Kentavious Street from injury last year, it adds more depth to the edges. Now, having threats like that on the outside really allows interior linemen DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead to have a significant impact on both ends of defense. I think Armstead is actually primed for a breakout season. The depth here is solid with Ronald Blair and Sheldon Day, but the hope is that they can find a home for former first-round pick Solomon Thomas somewhere within the front, as he hasn't been the impactful player they envisioned since drafting him out of Stanford. The linebacking core was busy as well this offseason, bringing in former Buck Quan Alexander. He's battled injuries the last 2 years, so the hope is that he can put together a full one out here in the Bay and be productive. Fred Warner is a budding star, leading the team in tackles last season. And keep an eye on Elijah Lee. I think he and Malcolm Smith could end up splitting time this season. Lee has quietly gotten better during his time in San Francisco. And rookie Dre Greenlaw out of Arkansas is another player who is stylistically similar to Malcolm Smith, but he has to stay healthy. A lot will be expected of the secondary group here in San Francisco, as they'll get back Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tart from injury. And I would expect Richard Sherman to fare much better this year, as he'll be 2 seasons removed from that the Achilles injury. And if third-year player Akilo Witherspoon can bounce back with better play, it just will help strengthen out this unit as a whole. If not, look for former Charger corner Jason Verrett to be ready to jump in the mix and take over. That may happen anyway if he can stay healthy, because he's one of the best corners in the game when he's out there on the field. Rookie Tim Harris looks to provide depth on the boundary, and I like what I saw last year from rookies DJ Reed and Marcel Harris. Both guys provide depth at safety, with Reed even figuring into the mix at nickel. Now here is how I graded the defensive units for San Francisco. I like the potential of the 49ers offense this upcoming season, especially within the running game, by utilizing 2 Georgia Southern Eagles in the backfield at the same time, and Jerick McKinnon and also Matt Breida, trying to generate a big play with quick hitters in a running game. They do have the potential to be even more explosive this year on offense because of the personnel that they've added, like Jalen Hurd out of Baylor. They also added Deebo Samuel out of South Carolina. So I'm excited about the 49ers offense. I'm going to show you a quick hitter in a running play. And what we're trying to do is come back with a little bit of influence and misdirection and get Matt Breida going back across the grain right there down that B gap for a touchdown. So in order to accomplish that, we have to trap this 5 tech here. And what we're going to do, let's just add some names to this personnel. Let's say this is Matt Breida, Jerick McKinnon. Let's put Jalen Hurd here because he's like your pseudo H-back tight end. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get carries in the backfield as well, and make that Dante Pettis for right now. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna trap this guy here, like I said, but we're gonna work everything backside. We're gonna have him corner over there, work him up toward the safety, get a good chip so that way the backer doesn't blow this thing up. Get a good chip and try to get that safety block. We're gonna block back. Boom, he's gonna get here. Combo block here to the backer. Bypass the 5 tech because he's a trap. Go up to the backer. He's kicking him out. We're going to bring him into motion. Once he gets where the guard is, right, splitting the guard in half, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to reverse out, fake the handoff to Jerick McKinnon, and hand the ball off to Matt Breida coming back across the grain. He's bursting through here. Block, work up, get the safety block, and that should be a house call because, again, he has legit home run hitting speed. So when you have two explosive backs, the linebackers really have to be patient in their reads and not get over aggressive. Or what will happen a lot of times when you have that speed, backers tend to get over aggressive and try to beat you to the spot, which puts them in great position to get blocked and trapped, which is why Matt Breida going back against the grain has the potential for a big play this year for San Francisco. With the second overall selection in this year's NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers went out and selected Nick Bosa out of Ohio State to bring that pass rushing presence up front along with free agent signee Dee Ford. And what I like about what they were able to do with Nick Bosa, or what he can do, is that he doesn't mind playing on the strong side where the tight end is or on the weak side. He can apply pressure on both ends and is very good versus the run as a defensive end. I'm going to show you how they can get pressure with their two interior defensive linemen because, again, these are two tall guys in Eric Armstead, number 91, and DeForest Buckner, number 99. And when you have two tall guys on the interior that are able to collapse the pocket, it takes away quick passing windows right behind them. It clogs up space and forces the quarterback to try to find an open window, which should be right into the waiting arms of these outstanding edge rushers, which is why I love the front four personnel potential of San Francisco this year. So with that said, we're going to just bring Dee Ford on the outside. We're going to cross the face of the tackle here with Nick Bosa because, again, he has the explosiveness and the strength to really beat a potential double team and fight through to get back there to the pocket. We're going to bring Armstead around here. We're going to bring Buckner around here, double A-gap pressure, taking away that quick window over the middle of the field, forcing the quarterback to panic, perhaps take steps back, which allows him the opportunity to get sacked by Ford or Bosa. So because they added Nick Bosa, I think they have a greater chance this year of getting what they want out of Armstead. And I know that's been one of the question marks for the San Francisco 49ers. They want him to take the next step. Buckner has done that. We're going to see that with Dee Ford, and Bosa, I think, is going to be a phenomenal player. So with their ability to create pressure within this division, especially against Arizona, Los Angeles, Seattle, there's unique ways that they can apply pressure and creative ways they can get the job done on game day.
San Francisco 49ers are up next. Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that he could be set up for a good season because Kyle Shanahan I think Kyle Shanahan has a way of making quarterbacks about 3 to 4 rounds better than they actually are in fantasy football, which to me, I wouldn't draft Jimmy Garoppolo if he was still with, certain teams. I'm okay with him going in the 11th to 12th round simply because I think Kyle Shanahan can scheme him to an 11th to 12th round pick. Tevin Coleman is going to be a really interesting play here because I think early on he's going to be the guy. He's going to be very familiar with the offensive scheme. He's more physically gifted as far as like his physical tools, being a bigger guy than Jerick McKinnon. And he'll probably, by the time we get to the drafts for your leagues, he might work his way up to that 4th or 5th round range. But right now in mocks and the outlooks, he's going in that 7th round range. Jerick McKinnon, if the gap comes where it's Tevin Coleman going in the 4th round, you can get McKinnon in that 10th or 11th round, you do that. But we clearly want Tevin Coleman out of the two because McKinnon's still recovering from an ACL. He's fully back, but sometimes you're not fully back until you put the pads on and you play a few games. Dante Pettis is going to function as the number 1 receiving threat. But folks, I'm a Deebo Samuel fan. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Deebo Samuel, I think, is one of those dudes. He doesn't look the exact same since he came back from the injury, but I think he's got a lot of Anquan Bolden to his game. And that's one receiver that I put on any team that I ever had is Anquan Bolden. Deebo Samuels reminds me of that, and I think he'll work really well in this system. Marquise Goodwin, going to be a speed guy. He's not going to be a guy who gets consistent pass catches. It's going to be more Dante Pettis, especially Deebo Samuels. I think he'll get fed. George Kittle. I think George Kittle is talented, but he was the creation of necessity last year. What I mean by that is, once Jimmy Garoppolo went out, because we didn't see George Kittle blow up with Jimmy Garoppolo, we don't know if he would have. We saw him blow up a little bit with Beathard, and then he blew up with Nick Mullins. Out of necessity, they looked for him. I don't think this year that he'll have nearly the type of season. And George Kittle is going as high as the second round right now in drafts. That's way too high of capital to spend when you can get guys like Antonio Brown. Come on, folks. Robbie Gould is a worthwhile kicker. I mean, he spent a franchise tag on a kicker. That means that he's got talent and they believe in him.
Troy Anthony here, bringing you the best bets for the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners drafted Nick Bosa out of Ohio State with their first-round pick. Nick Bosa is going to be in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. At plus 700, this is a big line for a player who's supposed to make some big noise. In their Week 1 matchup against the Buccaneers, the money line has San Francisco at minus 104. But I'm going to be safe here and take them with the spread at plus 1 for minus 110. I do believe they win the game though. That's all for now. I'm Troy Anthony. Follow me on Twitter at FootballFandom, replacing the O's with zeros.
I'm David Hassagen, and this is Huddle Up with Hassagen. We're going to fire off some quick-fire takes about the San Francisco 49ers. Who are your breakout candidates for 2019?
I think Kendrick Bourne is a guy to keep an eye on as a breakout candidate. I know everyone talks about Pettis, and you're talking about Jalen Hurd, the rookie, and Deebo Samuel, the rookie, all worthy of being breakouts, but I think Bourne was more consistent last year. Great chance to break out. Defensively, Fred Warner, their leading tackler last year, I think he has a chance to really be an impact player and become a household name around the NFL.
Obviously, you mentioned a lot of offensive rookies, but the defensive rookie, Nick Bosa, is getting a lot of attention here.
He goes second overall for a reason, and Bosa has a chance to be a significant player, a difference maker on this defense, opposite of D Ford and everything else that they already have on the front seven. Offensively, Deebo Samuel. You talk about being a bully at receiver, that's the name, Deebo, and that's what you talk about when you look at him. I think he has a chance to be this team's version of Pierre Garçon.
Who are going to be the X factors that are going to get the 49ers back into more of a prominent position?
Well, they need Dante Pettis to step up and be a threat on the outside. So I think he has to be an X factor. And Eric Armstead was another former first-round pick for this team that they really want to step up and assume a role right next to DeForest Buckner. Then you also look at what they have in D Ford and now Bosa. If Armstead can be that threat, then this front four might be the best in the NFC.
They're also going to need some surprises out of camp this year. Who do you think those are going to be?
Wide receiver Richie James, whom they drafted a few years ago out of Middle Tennessee State. Short, shifty guy, has a chance to really be a slot receiver for this team. They need him to step up and be a significant threat. And defensively, he's a veteran, but Jason Verrett, if Verrett can ever stay healthy, again, unfortunate incidents that has led to him having injuries, but he's one of the best slot corners in the game. If he can stay healthy, huge pickup for San Francisco.
There's been a lot of pessimism around this team. Where's the optimism going to be for 49ers fans?
I think their defense is going to be great. I think this defense is going to be fantastic. They're going to be fun to watch. Offensively, they have the ability to really strike quick. We saw all their quarterbacks have success, so it didn't matter who was out there. But that leads me to the cause for concern. If Jimmy Garoppolo is, again, injury-plagued and kind of okay, like he was statistically the last 2 years, quietly, even when they went on that 5-0 run, he still threw 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So he's not proven to be worth the money that they gave him. If he continues that trend this year, it could be a significant problem in San Francisco. Emory Hunt Lazar, the Playbook here, and joining me now is fellow football game plan analyst Troy Anthony for this $4 with Lazar segment, continuing our preview of the San Francisco 49ers. And as we take a look at the 49ers in this road to the Super Bowl, I think you have to start this segment off with Jimmy G. Jimmy Garoppolo, he has to prove his worth. They gave him the Brinks truck, essentially a blank check, and they expected him to be Joe Montana. Right now, he's still been kind of okay. And it didn't help that Nick Mullins came in and put up similar numbers in his absence. So can Jimmy Garoppolo get to what people are projecting him to be? If he can be there for a full 16-game season, which we haven't seen him do yet, and also be dynamic in that regard, being a difference maker at the position, something that they didn't have since Colin Kaepernick, since Jeff Garcia, they have to find a way to get Jimmy G to be that guy. If he can't be that guy, they won't go far.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy G came in 7-0 in his career. Then they threw the brink trucks at him. I was a proponent of Jimmy G, saying, all right, he's going to come in and make magic happen. But then he goes down. So health is my number one issue with this San Francisco 49ers offense. Jimmy G goes down. They bring in Jerick McKinnon to be their back. He goes down before the end of the season. Pierre Garçon was dealing with health issues. They bring in Marquise Goodwin. He goes down a couple games into this season. So we really truly haven't seen what Kyle Shanahan can do with this offense. We know what a great offensive mind he is, but it's still up in the air what this 49ers team is. Mullins came in, he started doing work, but we still don't know what the team is. So it'll be interesting to see next season, if they all can stay healthy, what they can do with it.
Well, staying healthy is one thing, but getting new additions to gel quickly is another. They've made a ton of changes on defense. They bring in D Ford. They bring in all kind of players via free agency and in the draft. They have some good players already on that roster. Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner. So they got good players, but they want to see if all these guys can mesh and really blend in. Nick Bosa is another one. That's, the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
So if they can get all these new pieces to gel and get pressure and stop the run, because on paper, they look like a dominant front seven. If they can be dominant, this team can definitely get to the Super Bowl.
Speaking of being dominant, reverting back to their offense, how we don't know what they are yet. Even with the stagnant offense they had this year, injury depleted, they still finished middle of the pack. So I feel as if coming into this season, when they have everybody healthy, a full offseason with everybody, Shanahan's going to take that team from finishing from 13 to 18 to finishing up in the top 10. And if they finish in the top 10, I think that they'll be in the running to go into the postseason, even in this competitive division.
It's going to be a competitive division, and that's one thing Troy mentioned that is so true. We haven't really seen this 49er team be healthy, so we don't know what to expect. If they are healthy, and if the talent on paper suggests what they could be in the actual game, in reality, this team definitely can be playing in February. I have the 49ers finishing fourth in the NFC West. For me, there are just too many ifs with this football team. If player A can stay healthy, if player B can have a bounce back season. What I am sure about, though, is that they will be very strong and stout on both sides of the line of scrimmage, which will yield itself to some tough wins during the season. I see them as a 6 or 7 win team this year. Not where they want to be, but definitely building and heading in the right direction. So that's it for this season preview. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the Playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of our social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to Football Game Plan Podcast on iTunes, where you can find our NFL All 32 podcasts, our fantasy football starting lineup, as well as our Scout Team podcast, and leave us a 5-star rating. Also subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network, located at youtube.com/Football Game Plan. Finally, every Thursday and Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, be sure to check out the Football Game Plan show on the Game Plus Network. Check with your cable provider for channel listings.